Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Bergstad, and I am the founder and CEO of Number Solutions. I provide financial and business consulting to small businesses. On a day-to-day basis, I help small businesses with their financials and really anything numbers to make sure that they are turning those numbers into profit. However, with the recent pandemic that's going on, I have essentially pivoted and shifted towards helping my current clients out and several new clients with the current business environment, understanding the resources that are available to small businesses, and helping them apply for those loans and making sure that they're taking advantage of what is out there. So I've really begun to get a good understanding of the different types of programs that are out there. I've been keeping up to date on all the different changes that are going on. And a lot of businesses have been asking the same type of questions to me on a daily basis. So I figured what would be best is to put together a little video to help explain things, put some of the stuff that you might have been hearing on the news from other small businesses, things that you've been reading, and put it into plain English so that it's easy to understand and help you be able to figure out if this is something that would be good for you and your small business. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to share a PowerPoint that I put together. I'm a visual person, and I find that it helps to have something to look at instead of just watching me on a video the whole time. So let's see. Let me try and get the right screen here. Keeps wanting to go to my email. Not sure why. So let's try sharing this. All right. So again, my business is Number Solutions, and we're going to be talking about today COVID-19 or coronavirus and small business implications. I'm recording this today, April 13th. Things are changing on a day-to-day basis and even hour by hour. So if you're watching this in a month, might not be applicable, but just know that as of today, this is what's going on. So let's see if I can do the actual slideshow here. Okay. So as you know, the coronavirus has had a big impact on small businesses in a variety of different ways. So the federal government put together the $2 trillion stimulus package that was signed a few weeks ago. And what's really hard for small businesses is that it's a very uncertain environment. We don't know what's going to happen. No one can predict right now where this is going to go, how long it's going to last. So even when we're, looking at preparing the business, looking to, revise our forecasts and look into the future to see what's going to happen, it's really hard for us to know a lot of those things that we can't control. We don't know when businesses are going to open back up. We don't know when people are going to be able to go back to work, when the stay-at-home orders are lifted, etc. And because there's this uncertain environment and there's been such a great impact on small businesses, there are a lot of different programs that are out there for small businesses, but there's so much, and a lot of it can be really confusing. And again, like I said, it's been changing day by day. The government rolled it out very quickly after it was signed. And it's hard to think through every single thing. And so once businesses actually started applying for things, the program started going into effect, there are all these little things that they started to realize that needed to be addressed. So then there have been a lot of different updates and changes that they've been implementing along the way. So hopefully I can explain some of these things in plain English so that for those non-accountants out there or non-numbers people, it's easier to understand. So I just want to start with the bottom line right now. As of today, mid-April, there are two main options that are out there for small businesses. The first one is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is the EIDL. You might hear people refer to it as EIDL. The other one that is out there is the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. Now, there are a lot of different things out there. You know, there are some businesses that are helping out, like Google and Facebook. There are cities and counties that are offering grants. There are some tax credits and tax deferments that are available. There's just a wide variety of things right now that are available. But two things that a lot of businesses are taking advantage of right now are this economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Program. And for these two, it's better to act sooner rather than later. So for purposes of this video, I wanted to highlight these two and go into each in more detail. So again, this is just bottom line. There are a lot of things out there, but the two main options that you should focus on today are these two. So let's start out with the first one, the economic injury disaster loan. So the main things about this one is that essentially all businesses are eligible. Even if you don't think that you're eligible, you probably are. So if you have been impacted in any way by COVID-19, which I think pretty much all businesses have been impacted in some way or another, if you've had any negative impact, then you are eligible. You know, maybe the manufacturers of toilet paper and Purell haven't been affected, or even, you know, all the liquor stores, they've had a boost in sales, might not have negative impacts, but for everyone else out there, this would include you. So there are guidelines on what is considered to be a small business, but for purposes of this video, I'm just going to keep it very high level. So you will want to look at the specifics, but really it's a business that has 500 or fewer employees. And even if you are a gig worker, a contractor, a sole proprietor, you are eligible for this loan. For the EIDL loan, it's a loan of up to $2 million per business. And the term of the loan, so the amount of time to pay back the loan, is 30 years, up to 30 years. And the interest rate is very low. It's 3.75% for businesses and even lower for nonprofits. You do need to provide a personal guarantee for loans that are more than $200,000. So I'm guessing that a lot of businesses will not be, you know, getting loans of more than $200,000. But what this means is that, you know, you just also sign your name to the loan and you guarantee that it's going to be paid back. You personally are going to guarantee that. But the big thing that I want to point out on this, that people have been probably talking about, and you've seen them articles or social media about this, is that what people are calling is free money. So when you apply for this loan, you can get an up to $10,000 advance for your business as an option. And this advance does not need to be paid back. So lots of things going on here. I'll go into in a minute on how to actually apply for this loan, but there is an option when you're filling out the application. Click the box and say, yes, I would like to be considered for up to $10,000 advance on the loan. So what an advance is what it sounds like. You get, you know, money advanced to you, put in your bank account before all the, you know, loan paperwork is processed and the loan is complete. You know, you might hear people use that term advance on a paycheck. It's just getting money before everything else goes through. Now, when I say that it does not need to be paid back, is that if whatever amount you get, it can, you know, from 0 to 10,000, that advance that comes through does not need to be paid back to the government. So this is an amazing option and a great feature of this loan, and that's why it's been, there's been a lot of buzz about this, is because of this. So whatever amount you get, you don't have to pay it back. So how do you actually apply for this loan? So there's an online application. It's done through, it's a loan through the SBA, or Small Business Administration. I've had people ask me who the SBA is. It's a government agency They help small businesses and even entrepreneurs or people starting about making a business. They have a ton of different resources. This is what they do all the time. They have, local offices too. I know there's one here in Minneapolis, and they're a great resource. And if you haven't heard of them before, you should look into all that they have. So this is a loan through the SBA. Go to their website, sba.gov. You'll see things highlighted in yellow on, how to apply, where to apply. Click here for the COVID-19 loan. And I have a link here to the online application. So with this, the application, for some reason, there was some guidance from the SBA that they were expecting that it should take 2 hours and 10 minutes to fill out. I think it's 3 or 4 screens of information online. I've done it a few times, and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to complete for a business. And that is a similar time frame to what I've been hearing from other business owners. So if you have all of your, basic info available, it's information for you and your business, it should not take that long. So when you're going through this application, fill out the appropriate information. I'm not going to go through it in detail. If you have any questions, let me know. And then on the last screen, before you hit submit application, you want to check the box that says, yes, I want to be considered for the up to $10,000 advance. Below that, you'll then include your bank information, the name of your bank, routing number, and account number. Don't worry, this is safe. It's for them to be able to deposit the advance amount into your bank account. And then you submit the application online. Once you submit the application, there will be an application number that comes up on the screen, and print this page or take a picture. This is the one time that you're going to see it. They do not email you and say, good job, you filled it out, it's in process. There's no login to go back and find that application number again. So somehow make sure you record that application number. So if you do have any questions in the future, you can have that as a reference. So now again, what is this about the 10,000? So some history on this, they were planning that the government that is, that for every business that applied, they would automatically give them this $10,000 advance. And the website kept crashing and all this stuff was going on and everyone was applying. And for some reason, they were surprised by this much interest. I don't know why there was a surprise that if you were going to offer each business up to $10,000 in advance that they did not have to pay back, why it was a surprise that there was so much interest, but there was. So it also was going to be an advance that was going to be deposited into a business bank account within the 3 days of the application. People started submitting these applications, I think almost 2 weeks ago now. And to my knowledge, as of today, none, if any, businesses have actually seen any advance amount in their bank account. So there's some revised language on websites that say, okay, wait, yep, the 3 days was kind of like a hopeful thing, some guidance on like time frame, and now it's up to 10,000, not for sure 10,000 per business. They haven't put anything out there on specifics of how the advance amount is determined for the business. When you say up to, well, what does that mean? People right now are, the word out there is that they're going to base it on the number of employees that the business has. So if you have 1 employee, you're going to have $1,000, 5 employees, $5,000, etc. So essentially $1,000 per employee is what people are thinking that they're going to use for kind of a way to figure out the advance amount per business, because they don't have enough money to give every business that has applied the 10,000 advance that has, never been, that doesn't need to be paid back. So, it's pretty difficult to figure out, okay, well, what should we do for each business? Who deserves this amount and who deserves that? So the rumor is that the metric that they're going to use is the number of employees. So once that advance is determined and people actually start giving it, again, it is forgiven. So you don't have to pay that back. Loan forgiveness is, someone loans something to you and you say, okay, never mind, forgive that amount that you owe, you don't need to pay it back. If, you get that advance, then there's also, the actual loan process. So after that, there'll be, more paperwork to do to actually determine the amount of the loan you get, but that advance up front is forgivable and, don't need to pay it back. Even if you decide not to take the loan, if for some reason you don't qualify for loan. If they look at your information that you provided and for whatever reason you don't qualify, that doesn't affect the advance that has already been given to you. Okay, so then once you've filled out this online application, that takes about 15 to 20 minutes. The question is kind of, okay, then what happens? And honestly, as of right now, we don't know. I've asked the SBA directly. I've asked multiple people, other business owners, SBA loan officers, and no one really knows right now. The general guidance that is given to people is that a loan officer will be contacting the applicants that apply for this loan, and you might need to submit additional documentation. What that is going to be, we don't know, because they're thinking that they're just going to have to go through the documents more quickly than they usually do. So they might actually be asking for fewer documents or support numbers, etc., than they usually do. But this advance should be showing up in your bank account in the meantime. Also, the time frame that they've been giving people is that they will be contacted within 3 to 4 weeks from when they submit the application online. They will be contacted by an SBA loan officer. So really, I've been talking to several small businesses and they ask, okay, well, what's the downside? Is there any effect that I'm going to have on me or my business if I apply for this? So I put here in kind of a sassy way that, if you consider 15 to 20 minutes of your time is worth more than $1,000, that could be a downside. I personally don't, so I have done this application. If you're the only person working in your business and you have an employee of just you, which is one employee, and right now they're guessing that it's going to be $1,000 per employee in advance, so you get that $1,000 to fill out the application, so you lose 15 to 20 minutes of your time. The only other caveat that I want to give is that you do have to include your personal information on the application, your date of birth, your social security number, that type of information, because they will be running a credit check on the business owner or owners. So if you're in the middle of refinancing a loan for your home or anything like that, or if you're in the middle of buying a car, sometimes when a credit check is run on you, that can have a negative effect. So really, other than that, and I've been looking out there and there really isn't any downside other than, having a credit check run and taking a little bit of time to fill out the online application. So that is the EIDL loan. Now, as you remember, at the beginning, I talked about that there are two options. So we just talked about the first one, the economic injury disaster loan, and there's a second one, that's the Paycheck Protection Program. And I'm going to now talk about this second option that is available. So, as of even, I would say 5 days ago, people were still focused on the EIDL or economic injury disaster loan as being, the loan that was going to get their business through. People were excited about this up to $10,000 advance that was didn't need to be paid back. The loan terms are great, but that one is actually being administered by the SBA. So what that means is administering is just, they're the ones doing the paperwork. They're the ones that are in charge of the program. And they had so much interest in the EIDL loan, they realized that this second loan option that's out there, the PPP, they couldn't oversee that one as well as far as administering the day-to-day. So what they ended up doing was the second one, the Paycheck Protection Program. Now that is being administered by banks. So it's still an SBA loan, but it's going to be handled by banks. And it's been changing every day on what's going on with the banks doing the program. But this one, people are actually starting to get their applications pushed through, and people have actually even seen like the loan in their bank account that's been deposited. So this one is moving a lot faster in the past 3 or 4 days even. So now everyone's focus is kind of shifting to this one, which is really interesting. So at least I find it interesting. So some basics about the PPP. So again, all small businesses are eligible. Again, there are some, definitions of what a small business is. But, at first this was for, businesses with employees, and as of last Friday, which I believe was the 10th of April, now sole proprietors, independent contractors are now open to apply as well. So really, any small business out there that's been affected by COVID-19 in a negative way is eligible for this loan. And this one, again, is done through a bank. So if you are interested in this, and I'll talk about this more, but you would contact your bank for this one. There is not an online application unless that's how your bank does it. They might have you fill out forms online and, upload different documents to their website. But this is different because it's done through a bank versus the EIDL, the first one we went through. Everyone goes to the same website and everyone fills out the same application online. So for this one, the amount, it's up to $10 million per business. I don't know which business is going to get 10 million, but that'd be great if you have that big of a business where your average payroll cost is that high. The amount of the time of the loan is 2 years, and the interest rate is 1%. And for this one, there's no guarantee required. So you do not have to put a personal guarantee on this loan. You don't have to sign your name to it and say that you are going to personally guarantee that this loan will be paid back. The big thing with this one is the loan forgiveness aspect, which is that the loan that you get, if you use it correctly and if you're able to use it, to pay eligible costs, which I'll go into more detail, is that you might not need to pay anything back. So you might get a loan for, say, $50,000, and then you can go through a process to get forgiveness on the loan, and you might not need to pay back any of the $50,000. So a little bit more background on this PPP. So the purpose of this was to keep people employed. So Paycheck Protection Program, protecting those paychecks, keeping those employees employed. So the purpose of the loan is to keep the people employed, and it's to mainly go to pay you and your employees. And I'll go into that in more detail too as well later. And this loan, as of now, it's available until June 30th. Is when you're able to apply through June 30th. But because there's so much interest, I'm recommending to any businesses, any business owners, that they apply to this sooner rather than later, because we don't know what's going to happen. If for some reason funds run out or the program changes, it's better to get in your applications now and get this going, rather than waiting till June 29th and trying to fill this out. Okay, so how to apply? Again, this is done through your bank. So if you have a current banking relationship, a place where you normally go to do your banking, you want to contact them first and see what their process is. A lot of banks now have the process on their website. So if you go to their website, they'll have instructions on how to apply for the PPP loan, or Paycheck Protection Loan. Each bank is going to require different forms and documents. It's going to vary. It's going to vary for a couple reasons, because banks, this program was rolled out and they weren't given a standard set of forms to fill out. Some are very similar, if not the same, but each bank is going to vary a little bit in what they request. Also, what you're going to provide to the banks will vary just based on the type of business. So if you run a business with 10 employees and you use someone to run your payroll, whether a payroll processor like ADP, I know Square does it, Gusto, they'll have reports, and you'll have, traditional, what I call traditional payroll, right? People get their paychecks and their pay stubs, and, it's run through a payroll processor. But then there's some of us, say you're a sole proprietor, or you're, a contract worker, single member LLC, where you don't necessarily, run your payroll through a payroll processor. You don't cut yourself a biweekly payroll check. So there'll be then, because of that, different forms needed for your type of business. Okay, so what is the loan amount? So, you're going to take your average monthly payroll and take that number, multiply it by 2.5 to get to the amount of the loan. This is high level basics. There are other factors that need to be considered in this calculation, but this is just high level general how it's calculated, what the amount of the loan is going to be. So again, if you have that traditional payroll, as I kind of said before, I think of that as, you have a bunch of employees, you use a payroll processor to calculate all your payroll, you run it biweekly. A lot of those payroll companies have made reports on their sites that give you this information for this loan. So, I use ADP. Now when I go to reports on my payroll website, there's an option for reports for PPP loan. So they were very proactive, a lot of these payroll processors, and were able to get these reports made so that then you can just use those for the calculation. Now, for people that don't have the, again, traditional payroll, as I like to refer to it, are self-employed or something similar, well, what the general guidance is, and your bank might have a different way of doing it, but what most banks have been requiring is that you have the net profit from 2019, which is usually taken from your tax return for 2019, and you use that to come up with what your annual compensation or benefits is, and you divide that by 12 to come up with an average monthly amount. So in theory, what they're saying is if you're self-employed and you make a profit, so say at the end of the day, you have $12,000 in profit at the end of the year, well, that is what then you would be compensating yourself. So that's kind of the logic behind it. So very simple example of just how this is calculated, because I think this is going to be one that is extremely popular with small businesses. And so I just wanted to give a little bit more of the numbers, and don't run away. They're not too scary. Don't worry. Simple math to just so you get an idea. So say your payroll for 2019 was $120,000. Now I did this to make my math simple. So then if that's for the whole year for 12 months, then my average monthly payroll is going to be $10,000. So 120,000 divided by 12 gives me average monthly payroll of 10. Then the loan amount is that average monthly amount times 2.5. So I can get up to $25,000 for this loan. Okay, so I get this loan of $25,000. Now what do I do? So really, you can spend it however you want to spend it. It's a loan, they give it to you. You can spend it on anything you want for your business. But if you want to have the loan forgiven, so if you want to have it so that you don't need to pay back that $25,000 loan, there are some requirements to do that. First is that there's an 8-week time frame for you to spend that $25,000. So some banks have told people that have already received the loan on the day they sign the documents and gotten money in their bank that they say, okay, the clock starts ticking now. And so businesses have been calling and saying, okay, my banker just told me the clock starts ticking. What is this clock and what are they talking about? Well, you have 8 weeks essentially to spend the money if you want it to be part of the calculation for the amount of forgiveness. So from the day that the date the loan originates or when you sign those documents and you get the money, you have 8 weeks from then to spend it on eligible expenses to get it forgiven. So of that loan, you want to use at least 75% of that loan on payroll costs. Now there are certain things that, qualify for payroll costs. I won't go into that nitty-gritty detail. So you want to spend the majority of it on payroll because the purpose of this loan is to keep people employed and keep paying your employees. Then the remaining amount of the loan can be used for other eligible costs such as rent, utilities, and interest on a mortgage if you have it. So bottom line is keep track of how you spend this loan amount. Some people are, putting it even in a separate bank account, the loan that they get, and then, paying things out, the eligible expenses from this bank account with just this loan in it. So continuing with the example that I was giving, you received that loan of $25,000. So of that, you need to spend $18,750 or at least 75% of the loan for payroll. Then the remainder can be on other eligible expenses like rent, utilities, or interest on mortgage. So again, this is just if you want the loan to be forgiven, doesn't need to be paid back. This is how you need to spend it. You need to spend the majority of it, 75% or more, on payroll costs. So, you have this 8-week period for, spending the loan amount. And then, there isn't right now any specific guidance on how the calculations are going to go, what banks are going to require as far as like proving out how you spent it and all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that, but it was rolled out so quickly that, that hasn't been done yet. So, once that 8-week period is done, or maybe along the way, even as you're spending that money on, costs that are eligible for the loan forgiveness, keep track of it. And then you can say, okay, I got this $25,000 loan. I spent at least 75% of it on payroll, the other 25 on, my rent and utilities. So I want, you request loan forgiveness from the bank. So if for some reason, you don't use that 25,000 completely, say you only are able to use a portion of it towards these eligible costs. Say in my example here, you only use 20,000 of the 25,000 that is, towards eligible expenses. Then the remaining portion then turns into a loan. So in this example, you would have a loan of $5,000. So 25 minus 20 is 5. That's how I got to it. Keeping it simple with my math. And then that's a loan, and it's a term of 2 years with 1% interest, and that would need to be paid back to the bank. So some things to consider. I gave a really high level overview of how this works. there are some nuances and things that you need to think about. So one is the reduction in number of employees or pay for those employees. So again, the purpose of the loan is to keep people employed, and they also don't want you to, just have the same people employed and, but reduce their pay significantly. So again, there isn't specific guidance on how it's going to be calculated, but just know that the amount that is going to be forgiven or not need to be paid back is going to be reduced based on if you've, cut back on any number of employees or reduced pay more than 25% than what it was before COVID-19 happened. So just keep that in mind. And that also goes along with the timing of the loan. So I know here in Minnesota, we're going to be shut down for the rest of the month. So for some businesses, I'm recommending that they kind of keep in mind the timing of when the stay-at-home order is going to be lifted. Of course, we don't know for sure when it's going to be lifted, but we can try and plan as much as we can around this. So maybe submitting all the loan documents, but not having it actually go through until closer to when we're actually going to have the stay-at-home order lifted. So, if your business is currently shut down completely and you're not able to do anything, well, it might be that you don't want to have this loan until a date that's closer to when you're going to open back up and have those employees back again. Because, you want to have employees on your payroll and working to be able to use the loan amount to pay them. And another thing to think about too is that calculation was that the amount of the loan, it's 2.5 times monthly payroll, but then you have to use it in 8 weeks. So you're kind of 10 weeks for a loan amount versus then 8 weeks to use it. So just think, you have to be able to plan and use it wisely. Also, one thing that is great about this is that the loan forgiveness is not taxable. So say in my example, you had the $25,000 and you used it completely towards eligible expenses, and you had the whole amount, the $25,000 forgiven. That is not going to be then taxed. So it's not going to show up as you got $25,000 of income on your tax return, which is an amazing feature of this. Something else that has come up recently when I've been talking to some more freelancer businesses is unemployment. So if you are a sole proprietor or you're the one person in your business, you do contract work, for the first time ever, you're now able to apply for unemployment. So, but you can also get, your payroll costs or your compensation costs covered through this loan too. But the only thing is you can't do both. So you can't be getting unemployment and this PPP and, have it covering the same periods. So one thing that you might want to do is, my understanding is that the unemployment's taking, it's just, varies state by state, but it's a little bit lag behind. They've gotten so many claims for unemployment. So you might not have received your unemployment yet. So one thing you can do is get the PPP loan now and have it be for 8 weeks to pay yourself for 8 weeks. And then after that, you can have unemployment kick in. So you just can't overlap, right? You can't get paid twice, for the same period. Where to apply? Again, apply to your bank. If you don't have a current banking relationship or you don't have a go-to person at a bank, starting the end of last week, last Thursday or Friday, about the 9th or 10th of April, the SBA realized that there were a lot of small businesses that didn't really have a go-to bank or someone to go to, or some banks are only taking applications for current customers, and there were all these various things that were going on. So the SBA started approving kind of non-traditional lenders to be able to administer this loan or do the paperwork for this loan. So They're now, I think PayPal is doing the loan. Kabbage with a K, KABBAGE.com. Some of these online companies are now authorized by the SBA to offer these loans and provide them to small businesses. So just another option to throw out there. Also, some feedback that's been going on is that larger banks, because they have so many customers, they're receiving a large volume of applications. And it's actually the smaller, maybe local banks that are getting these loans processed more, a little bit quicker. So if you have, a couple different options, maybe go with the bank that's a little bit smaller, more local, because they might be able to process your loan a little bit faster. But and then the last point on here that I just want to reiterate is that you need to plan and plan and plan for this one, because I just don't want people to, take out this loan, get a huge loan amount and then not spend it appropriately. And then you have this loan that you're going to have to pay back, because if you don't spend it on eligible things, you're going to have to pay it back. And you don't want to have a loan that's due in 2 years, especially with this uncertain economic environment that's going on. So you plan, or someone in your business plans, or hire someone to help you plan. That's your best bet. So now you know about the 2 main loans that small businesses have out there. So I've created some action steps for you to keep these things simple, because a lot of times you get all this great information and you're like, okay, I think I got it. And then you go back to do it and you are like, wait, where do I even start? So first step is to apply for that economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL. I had a link earlier in a slide, but essentially if you just go to sba.gov, you'll see all the different options to follow to, get resources for COVID-19 and small businesses. And, you'll get the link to the EIDL application. Take 15 to 20 minutes and fill that out. Remember to check the box saying that you want to be considered for the $10,000 advance. And once you've submitted your application, print off your loan application number or take a picture with it with your phone or something. Then for the Paycheck Protection Program loan, contact your banker and ask them, okay, I'm interested in this PPP loan. What do you need to start this process? Just as simple as that. They'll send you back something and get it going. And then, with this, take some time to think about how it's going to work for you and your business. Everyone's different. Everyone's in a different situation. So just, start to kind of figure out, okay, if I'm going to get this money, how am I going to use it? And, what can I do to make sure that I max out the amount that then I can get for forgiveness and I don't need to pay back? And, you can start filling out the paperwork. And again, plan for how you're going to use that money. So with all this, I said I have been helping out businesses and really getting to know the different programs that are out there. Again, these are just 2 of the, myriad of programs and resources, grants, funding that is out there for businesses. But these are the 2 that most small businesses are focusing on right now. And, I'm a small business owner too. I own a variety of businesses, and I've been applying for both of the loans because my businesses are affected. And so I understand the process. I know what small businesses are going through. I'm also trying to stay up to date on all these changes and updates and all the different trends that are going on. It's a lot. It's kind of, almost become a full-time job. I listen to a ton of nerdy accounting webcasts on a daily basis and reading articles and just trying to kind of keep a pulse on what's going on. And so, how I've been helping small businesses is that, the first things that, I've applied for the loans, I'm staying up to date on everything that's going on. is that I've been able to answer a lot of questions that businesses might have. So if you have any questions, I'm a good resource that you can come to. You know, say after this, you still are, you know, have questions on, you know, the main points of both loans, or, you know, you have questions more specific to your business and what it means for your business and the structure that you have, I can help with those. This is a very new program. You know, some of these are just a few weeks old, and I don't know if anyone's really an expert in this, but I can at least be a first point of contact, or at least point you in the right direction as to where you can find out the information you're looking for. I've also been helping businesses with the loan applications. You know, some business owners feel comfortable filling out the loans and communicating with bankers or with the SBA, you know, and other businesses, the owners might not feel as comfortable. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum where, you know, just answer a few questions, walk people through the process here or there, to the other end of the spectrum where I've been essentially just doing the majority of the heavy lifting to get the paperwork done to start processing these loans. You know, I can be on either end of the spectrum or somewhere in the middle. You know, I understand numbers and I understand small businesses. So, you know, I'm able to help them that way. And, you know, that's what I've been mostly doing for the past couple of weeks, is helping businesses with these loan applications. So I have my contact information up here. It's easiest right now, I just put my email because that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. So shoot me an email if you have any questions or want to set up a Zoom call or conference call or anything at this time, and we can get that going and I can see how I can help you, if at all. You know, I'm just, you know, another resource out there to help small businesses through this time. So again, hopefully this was helpful for people and you were able to, you know, get a better idea of what the two main options are right now. Again, just two of the many. And I'm sure, you know, it will be changing on a day-to-day basis, but at least this is a foundation for you to go forward. And I'll go back to your action steps. So, you know, this is what you need to do in the near future here. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. All right. Thanks, everyone.